All right, guys, unit 27, and we're going to double it 27 and 28. So we're going to combine 27 and 28 for this video and talk about Coues deer hunting and mule deer hunting. Why did I combine 27 and 28? Well, if you look on the regulations, and it has been since I've ever started hunting and hunting in 27, for Coues deer specifically, 27 and 28 are combined. So it's a double unit hunt. So you can hunt in either 28 or 27. So that's why I'm combining them. They separate the mule deer hunts for 27 and 28, but we're just going to talk about both of them because they're both really important and good draw odds. So let's talk 28 first. Unit 28 is the southern half, or the southern part. If you're going, it's south of 27. It's that southern section. A lot more mule deer in 28 than there are Coues deer. Coues deer they live in little pockets in 28 that kind of border on the San Carlos Reservation to the west, and some of that higher elevation stuff to the New Mexico border. So both 27 and 28 have parts of New Mexico and the San Carlos Reservation on their eastern and western boundaries. So keep that in mind. 28 can be pretty tough to hunt. If you're focusing on Coues deer, it can be pretty tricky. They don't live everywhere. They live, like I said, in little pockets and ravines. I would focus on some of that higher elevation stuff towards the 27 border or the New Mexico border. Mule deer they're actually pretty populated in unit 28. Pretty easy to draw, but they're not easy to hunt. Unit 28 has, again, pretty good draw odds and a pretty good population, but there's just not a ton of water in 28 for the most part. And some of that country is cut up and kind of rugged. So in 28, what I would focus on is basically all that lower stuff. It kind of transitions from like juniper, high elevation country, pine trees, down into like deserty country, cliffy, rim rock kind of country. So the mule deer for the most part are living down in that lower elevation country where you can get up and glass. So hunt mule deer from an elevated position, looking down into some of that lower country. The Gila River area, the Gila Box area on the eastern side, I think it's called the Black River Wilderness, or no, not Black River. It's something like that. Been in there a bunch of times. It's all BLM. There is, like, the Gila River does run through it, and there is water that goes through 28, but other than that, it is very arid, very tough to hunt. Not a ton of mule deer population on that western side that really leans up against that San Carlos Reservation. So be careful in there. I mean, again, it's hard to draw. It's not hard to draw. Populations are not great on the western side. I would focus on the southern and southeastern side, and even along the New Mexico border, guys. Water is the key. We're going to have a lot of water this year, but from my experience, that western BLM stuff around the Gila River is tough to hunt. There are some big mule deer in there. It's locating them during late October is the tricky part, or early November when the seasons are out. So I don't want to scare you away from 28, but understand that the draw odds don't necessarily indicate much. It's a very tough hunt, and there is some big bucks in there, but you're going to have to really work for them. 27 is a little different. 27, there is the populations of both mule deer and Coues deer, honestly, are really good throughout the unit. So you literally can go to the very top and right outside Alpine, and you'll find Coues deer, you'll find mule deer, you'll find obviously elk, all the way to that southern end of the unit. And you can still find mule deer, Coues deer, and elk all throughout. The Eagle Creek runs on that western border up against the San Carlos on that western side. The Blue River runs on the eastern side, and if you guys look into anything about elk hunting or anything, Blue River will come up. Blue River primitive area, which is kind of like a nuanced wilderness area. There's some other little creeks and streams all throughout 27 that are big producers. So Coues deer specifically, they're kind of everywhere. I would say for the most part, I've seen a ton of Coues deer up in the pines with the elk, but they're very hard to hunt. So I always think about like, okay, I find bucks up here, but they're really tough to hunt, really tough to locate, especially if it's hot and there's a full moon. So for the most part, it's better to hunt off the rim. So 28 or 27 has the rim that basically divides it centrally. So you have kind of that northern half, and the Mogollon rim cuts the unit not quite in half, but it's an upper third is the Mogollon rim country, and that designates a ton of pine trees, higher elevation. Then it drops off the rim, becomes more juniper and rolling hills, bigger canyons, and like I said, there's Eagle Creek, there's Blue River Wilderness, primitive area. That's where I would focus on. I would focus on off the rim, get into some of that country. It's pretty thick, and do your glassing, do your due diligence in there. Focus on where the water is. There's a lot of water due to ranching and all that kind of stuff. So literally you can pick a spot anywhere in 27 and find deer. So it doesn't mean they're going to be easy to find. It's big country. Some of it's very intimidating country. The Blue River stuff and some of the giant canyons that we're not really used to in Arizona. So that's where I'd focus on. I'm going over some of that stuff on the map. For mule deer in 27, which is a phenomenal place to hunt mule deer as well. They have a draw usually for the archery, and well, they started doing the draw for the archery a couple years ago. So they do a draw for the archery tags and then a draw for the rifle tags. Nothing's too hard to get, but for mule deer, I would focus on the big flats. So with all the rolling hills, and the Coues deer and mule deer are intermixed in 27 quite a bit. For mule deer specifically, I would focus on the flatter country. So where it's going to be higher elevation stuff, but where you have big open, flat grassland country stuff on the tops, these mesas is what we call them. Any mesa where these rolling hills and this rim country canyon stuff kind of creates these big flat tops. Mule deer love that. Anytime you drive through 27, you look out the side of the road, you will see mule deer. And the bigger bucks kind of live in that transition zone where they are living, they feed and they water up in the flat, and then they drop off into some of the more rugged country to bed up and to stay safe. So during the actual season, once a little bit of pressure hits, expect those mule deer to be in some of that a little bit more remote country, high country. There are no limits to where these deer can go, guys. So you kind of have to get creative, like they have to get creative to survive. One warning, I will warn you about unit 27 and 28, but primarily for 27, there's always a ton of hunting pressure. These tags, they give out a lot of tags. There's a ton of hunting pressure. And the reason why there is a lot of hunting pressure in 27 is because there's limited access via roads. It's not like some of these other units that I've talked about where you're like, you can literally drive anywhere, drive your quad all over the place. 27 is Highway 191 runs all the way through 27 and down into 28, and it is off that road basically is where everybody hunts, and there is not a lot of access into some of that country. There's only a few roads that branch off of Highway 191, and so most people just find places to park right off 191 or little pullouts, and they'll hunt all the same ridges and all that kind of stuff just because it's almost impossible to get further back without truly backpacking in, which is not a realistic way to hunt for most people. So beware. Draw odds are pretty good. Buck quality, deer quality is really good. So I highly recommend you trying to draw this if it's in your wheelhouse. If you are physically fit, not afraid to get after it a little bit. So get in there, draw that, but understand you're probably going to see a lot of people. So that means you have to go even farther and get after it even that much more. So hope you guys enjoyed it. 27, 28, awesome places to hunt deer. Obviously 27 will be my first pick. 28 is a place that I highly recommend you do if you're willing to scout and get in there well before the hunting season happens. If you guys have any questions, hit me up on the description, the links in the description below. Hit me up in the comments. Anything I can do to help, guys. Deer draw is coming up. The deadline is coming up. So good luck out there. Talk to you soon.